Brooke Davis isn't just a character who grew up. She's a character who had to unlearn who she thought she needed to be just to survive. Because beneath the confidence, the humor, the bold personality, Brooke represents something a lot of people don't like to admit. What it feels like to be too much for people and still somehow not enough. This isn't just a character analysis. This is a deep dive into insecurity, identity, abandonment, and what happens when your self-worth depends entirely on being chosen. Brooke doesn't start as a mean girl. She starts as a performance. In psychology, there's a concept called performative identity, where a person constructs a version of themselves based on what they think will earn love, attention, or acceptance. That's Brooke. She learns early on that being loud, funny, sexual, and confident gets results. It makes people look at her. It keeps her from being ignored. But the problem with building yourself this way is simple. If people love the version of you that you perform, do they actually love you, or just the character you've created? And Brooke knows, deep down, it's the second one. That's why even in a room full of people, she feels replaceable. To understand Brooke's behavior, you have to look at what's missing in her life, not just what's present. Her parents are emotionally absent, not necessarily abusive in an obvious way, but distant, unavailable, detached, and that kind of neglect creates a very specific kind of wound. You learn that love is inconsistent, that attention has to be earned, that being easy to love is safer than being real. So Brooke adapts. She becomes low maintenance on the surface, but internally she's desperate for reassurance. This is why she overgives in relationships. Why she tolerates more than she should, why she stays longer than she should. Because losing someone doesn't just feel like a breakup, it feels like confirmation of something deeper. People always leave. The love triangle isn't just drama, it's psychological. Lucas choosing Peyton over Brooke doesn't just hurt, it defines something for her. Because Peyton represents something Brooke believes she isn't. Depth, meaning, emotional gravity. Brooke is fun, Peyton is real. And when Lucas gravitates toward Peyton, Brooke internalizes that as, I'm not the girl you stay for. This creates a loop. The more she feels like she's not enough, the more she performs. The more she performs, the less authentically she connects. And the less authentic the connection, the more likely it is to fail. It's self-sabotage, but not in the obvious way. It's not that Brooke pushes people away, it's that she doesn't believe she's worth staying for, so she builds relationships that reflect that belief. One of the most misunderstood parts of Brooke's character is her independence. On the surface, it looks empowering, and it is, but it's also a defense mechanism. There's a difference between I don't need anyone because I'm strong, and I don't need anyone because needing people has hurt me too much. Brooke falls into the second category, at least initially. Her independence is built out of necessity, not security. She learns to rely on herself because relying on others hasn't been safe. But over time, something changes. Her independence evolves. It stops being about avoidance and starts being about choice, and that shift is everything. At face value, clothes over bros sounds like a joke, but thematically, it's a rejection of Brooke's old identity. It's her saying, I will not center my life around being chosen anymore. It's a reclaiming of a narrative. For most of her early arc, Brooke exists in reaction to others. Who likes her, who leaves her, who picks her. But this is the moment she becomes proactive instead of reactive. And it's not perfect. She still struggles, she still slips, but the intention is different. She's no longer trying to be lovable, she's trying to be fulfilled. One of the most realistic aspects of Brooke's arc is what happens after she makes it. She builds a brand, a career, a life. She becomes successful, and yet the insecurity doesn't disappear because external success doesn't fix internal narratives. You can be admired, respected, even envied, and still feel like the same person who wasn't chosen. Brooke's story acknowledges something a lot of narratives ignore. Healing isn't achieved through accomplishment. It's achieved through internal change, and that takes much longer. The biggest shift in Brooke isn't her career, it's her relationship with vulnerability. Early Brooke equates vulnerability with weakness. Later, Brooke understands it as honesty. And that's a hard transition because being vulnerable means risking rejection again. But this time, the stakes are different. If someone rejects the real Brooke, at least it's honest. At least it's not the performance being rejected, and that's growth. Not becoming fearless, but becoming willing. Brooke resonates because her struggles aren't exaggerated, they're familiar. A lot of people feel like they have to be on all the time. They tie their worth to relationships, confuse attention with love, struggle to believe that they're enough without proving it. Brooke doesn't just represent growth, she represents late growth. The kind that comes after mistakes, after heartbreak, after patterns you didn't even realize you're repeating. And that's why she stands out, because not everyone starts as the underdog. Some people start as the person everyone assumes is fine. At her core, Brooke's story is about one question. What happens when you stop trying to be what people want and start figuring out who you actually are? And the answer isn't instant happiness. It's discomfort, it's loneliness, it's rebuilding yourself from scratch, but it's also freedom. Because at the end of her journey, Brooke Davis doesn't need to be chosen to be valuable. She already knows she is. Brooke Davis didn't just become a better version of who she was, she became a more honest one. And maybe that's why her story stays with people. Because it's not just about becoming perfect, it's about becoming real. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications on when I post, and let me know. Who should we analyze next? Because there are a lot of characters out there, but not many like Brooke Davis.